So Hex's 1Ks, the constructed 1K is really cheap. It's $7 to enter. The sealed 1K is $15, I think, but that includes the packs that you need to play. So it's cheaper if you already have packs on your account. I play Karn if I want to win. There's a smart person. So this hand is great, except it needs some more resources. And I mentioned these ice earlier. So this ice is gonna, these 2 shards are gonna guarantee that I draw 2 more resources this game. So I'm gonna play this wild ice and it's gonna ask me, hey, what do you want to draw next turn? Do you want to draw a resource or a non-resource? And I'm gonna say, hey, give me a resource. The drawback of these ices compared to normal resources is that they're a slow shard. They don't give me a resource to use the turn I play them. One of the other things I really love about Hex is that you can see we have different portraits here on each side of the screen. My opponent says Cassia Gold Knight and mine says Lady Avalanche. Nope, just the entry fee. Create an account and then have the $15 worth of in-game currency to jump right in. So the champions kind of give you something to do when you draw a few too many resources. And on top of giving you something to do when you draw a few too many resources, they also kind of let you distinguish what deck your opponent might be playing. So my opponent's champion, for 4 charges, so every time they played 4 resources, they get to illuminate 1, which creates a candle or makes all of their existing candle tokens larger. So that tells me that my opponent's playing a candle-based strategy, which generally my sweepers and spot removal are going to be good against. So basically, you get to kind of make informed decisions about the types of hands you want to keep before you even play a game with your opponent, because you get to kind of predict which deck they might be playing based on the champion choice that they're playing. Once played a Liberated Berserker. So this is a 1/2 that when it dies, they get charges towards their champion power equal to its power. And momentum says every time they play a resource, it gets a little bit bigger. How much money do I donate to you to get Burgle to stream Hex? I need to poke Burgle into streaming Hex. I think he would be good at it. So I'm going to go ahead and play my Acolyte of Shoku out here. This is one of the... So the deck I'm playing is kind of a ramp control deck. So this troop here is a 0/3 that at the start of every one of my turns when it's in play, it gives me an extra temporary resource for a full turn cycle. And then alongside this ramp, my deck is playing a lot of large threats like these Primordial Sabretooth, which is a 5/4 for 7 with speed, so it can attack right away, and it deals 5 damage to an opposing troop when it comes out. This card's kind of perfect for a ramp deck because it's a modal card. So in addition to being a 7-drop 5/4, I can also pay 2, reveal it from my hand, and put it back into my deck to deal 5 damage to a single target. Light of the Livanth, illuminate 1 and then gain 3. So my opponent will make a candle and then gain 3 health. So I am playing a ramp deck, and this is one of the cards that kind of is my payoff for generating card advantage in my ramp deck. This says whenever you play a resource, you draw a card, and it has the momentum mechanic where every time you play a resource, it kind of snowballs getting bigger. So the first resource gives it +1/+1. The second resource gives it +2/+2. The third resource gives it +3/+3, and it gets that bonus for a full turn cycle. My champion power synergizes with the ramp deck that I'm playing. So my champion power cost me 4. So when I play my 4th resource here, you're going to see my champion power light up. This is a dual resource, so we can make Wild or Ruby. So I play that resource, my Pathfinder triggers and draws a card. Now my champion power is lit up, and my champion power says one of your troops gets momentum 1, so it'll start getting bigger, and it lets you play an extra resource for the turn. So I'm going to go ahead and champion power my Acolyte of Shoku here. So this card is going to gain the line of text momentum here, and then I'm going to get to play an extra resource out of my hand for the turn. One of the things that's great about Hex 2 is that when I say Hex is a trading card game, I actually mean it's a trading card game. Unlike Hearthstone and Eternal and Test Legends and all these other games that are just using the pack lottery system where you got to grind cards into dust, Hex is a full buy, sell, trade secondary market. So my scrolling banner in the corner for Hex, hexprimal.com, there, think of them as the MTGO traders or Star City games of Hex. You can fill a shopping cart there with a budget deck or even a tier 1 deck if you want to jump it right into that. And just hit checkout and know exactly how much exactly the cards you want to buy cost. The budget decks in Hex that are competitive this season are start as cheap as like 15 bucks. And the tier 1 decks usually range in price from somewhere about $80 to about $150, depending on which deck you're buying, if you're buying all the pieces outright. The Hex ladder is completely free to play on. So that means if you pick up one of the cheap budget decks, you can play it as much as you want without putting any more money into the game, and then use that that budget deck while you're learning PvP to kind of grind the in-game currency and earn prizes and booster packs. The booster packs work just like a traditional trading card game where you can use the booster packs that you earn in game to enter limited events. So the booster packs that you earn from playing the constructed ladder or from leveling up your account, you can use to enter limited events for cheaper entry fee. How do you cash cards out of Hex and into cash? So the websites that run shops have buy lists on them. So Hex Primal has a buy list. There's also a sales subreddit, and there's a sales section of the official user forum where people post things that they're selling for cash. I've never sold Hex cards for... I've only sold Hex cards to friends personally for cash. I'm told that if you're looking to cash out of the game completely, the best way to sell out quickly is to turn your cards into platinum and then turn your platinum into booster packs, and people usually buy booster packs for cash fairly consistently because they can use them for limited. So you saw I activated my Sabretooth there to deal 5 damage to my opponent's troop. I'm gonna go and attack with my 2 Dorkos here. So you can see this Exalted Pathfinder is larger than my new one because this Exalted Pathfinder has been building momentum for longer than my old one. That being said, I'm actually out of resources in my hand right now. So if I don't draw a resource next turn, all 3 of my troops are just going to be pretty small because they're going to lose that momentum that they've been building until I find another resource. Go ahead and illuminate here. So again, when they illuminate, they can either make 1 new candle or they can make every candle that they already have +1/+1 larger. Candle Crush is pretty good. This illuminates and then deals a damage to something for every troop they control. So we're gonna kill my Pathfinder. And this time you can see they chose to make their candles larger. Maybe this attack was aggressive and I should have played defense a little bit. I have this Eternal Seeker, which is going to make my opponent very sad. So this is... I missed a shard, so I don't get to draw a card this turn, but Eternal Seeker is one of the ramp bombs here. This ramp deck has a very good candles matchup. So Eternal Seeker is a 5/5 with flight, and when it comes into play, I pick a number, and it voids every card of that number. So it voids all of my opponent's candles there. Yeah, that is worth noting. If you're buying into or selling out of Hex, do not buy platinum directly from other players. That's against the TOS and that will get your account banned. It is legal to buy and sell the actual physical cards and things. So they're digital cards, not physical. It's legal to buy and sell the cards and like mercenaries and PvE stuff, but you can't sell the currency directly for other currency. It is against the Hex terms of service. Not super surprised there. So the ladder's free to play on. So like if you're getting dumpstered in a game, it's like not a big deal to just like concede it, move on to the next one. Another thing I love about Hex is because they have a big focus on competitive gameplay. You'll see our ladder match here. After we finished that first game with my opponent, I just got to reserve, and these matches are best 2 out of 3. So unlike a lot of games that have a big focus on like playing games quickly and like letting you churn through them or like play 5 minutes games, Hex, a lot of the times the matches are longer and more involved, which is what I'm looking for. This hand might be a trap. It doesn't have a 2-cost ramp card, and it only has 2 resources, and neither of them Fate Weave. But like, if this hand hits a 3rd resource, Palm of Granite ramps me into a 4th and 5th resource. So I think I'm going to keep this on the draw. The best deck this season, D. Brian, is a Ruby Sapphire Sockets deck, which is a tempo deck playing Runebind. It's not a prison tempo deck like Empress was, but it is a tempo strategy. So if you liked the tempo powerful draws aspect of Empress and weren't drawn to it explicitly because it was a prison style deck, then I think the Ruby Sockets deck you would like a lot. I actually had an article go up on hextcg.com breaking down that deck on Wednesday, I think it was. We drew a Primordial Sabretooth here, so I'll get to kill my opponent's thing on turn 2, which is nice. Sweet. And we ripped another resource here. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and kill their thing. It might be worth it to wait for Scars of War. So Scars of War is a quick action, so I can play this on my opponent's turn if I have resources available. And it deals 2 damage to every troop. And it says those troops gain the text, "This is not healed at end of turn." So basically, the troops no longer remove damage from them, and damage builds up over time and kills them eventually. Yeah, Hex's non-rotating format is called Immortal. They have weekly Immortal tournaments 1 day a week, and every 2 months they have a large Immortal Championship tournament that actually myself and Mappamonte do coverage for, that my sponsor Hex Primal is in charge of. Hex is still kind of a newer game, so they only have we have 8 sets right now. So I'm assuming Immortal will get more support as it becomes more distinguished from Standard. The rotation in Hex is a little bit easier to follow than Magic. So Hex releases a set every 4.5 to 5 months. And every even set release, the 2 oldest sets rotate out of Standard. So Hex's standard format right now is sets 5 through 8. And the next rotation will happen when set 10 releases sometime like 6 months from now. Sets 5 and 6 will rotate out. So there aren't explicitly toolbox decks pan-dazed, but one of the things I really love about Hex is that their formats are really pretty interactive. Immortal has a few different combo decks that are a little bit degenerate right now that I'm not sure if they're going to keep those legal or not. One of the things that's nice about Hex is they're very transparent about what they plan to do or not do. So they have a watch list posted on their site, so you can kind of see what cards they're considering leaving legal or banning potentially in the future. So I'm just going to go ahead and Scars of War here and clean up my opponent's board. It does 2 damage to everything. I'm going to play out this Acolyte of Shoku. Even though this is quick, I'm playing it now as a basic action because I don't want my Acolyte of Shoku to take damage from it. That's really neat, Ripeson. Hex also has 2 days a week. They have tournaments for their rock format. And the entry fee is the equivalent of 15 cents worth of in-game currency. And you can win, I believe, 2 booster packs if you go undefeated in it. So really very reasonable prizes for a really low entry fee format. I'm going to activate my champion power, so I get to play 2 resources this turn. Activating it before I even play the first resource allows me to snowball its momentum because this adds momentum to my guy. Play this out, grab another resource. Is the Taka Hero Candlelight deck good against sockets? It's a close matchup, Uber Mikey. If you have a lot of Arcing Rust, it's probably fine. You have the tools you need to win, but sometimes your answers don't always line up well against their threats. Ever played Gwent? I've not played Gwent before Killagerm because last time I tried it wouldn't work on Linux. And I don't... opponent just missing their second threshold impact set in there. So you see I'm ranking up on the ladder. So the Hex ladder season just rolled over. So I'm still progressing my way up the ladder up until their Cosmic seeding. And how the ladder works is you collect prizes going from Bronze to Cosmic. And then once you're in Cosmic, you get a ranking among all the players in Cosmic. And at the end of every 2-month ladder season, the top 64 players on the constructed ladder and the top 64 players on the limited ladder get an invite to a $5,000 cash tournament with no entry fee because you had to qualify for it. I've heard Gwent does some unique things, but Gwent has another Hearthstone style system for acquiring cards, right? Or am I misremembering? Do they have a trading aspect? Do they have a subscription based system? A lot of these card games I just like never really get into because like it's just like expensive for me to try Constructed. I'm not really like a big limited player. I pretty much just play Constructed in Magic. Yeah, Cosmic is the ladder, essentially. You can climb from Bronze to Cosmic with a pretty poor win rate. I think someone did the math, and like, if you play enough matches, you can get to Cosmic with like a 40% win rate. So unlike some of the ladders in like Hearthstone or League of Legends, where the different divisions are based on skill, the ladder in Hex is really a way to just reward the players for playing Hex every season, allow them to collect free stuff. Oh yeah, that's true. If you're a data junkie like me, actually I can just pull it up right now. There's a website called hexpvptools.com. Hex publishes all the data about the game. So where's my Lady Avalanche versus Cassia Gold Knight? Oh, that one's not me. So it's animized. So you can see here, this is the match I just finished. You can see card for card everything my last opponent was playing. You can see how much their deck costs to buy off the auction house. You can see everything, and it's kind of great. So when Hex has their $1,000 cash tournaments on the weekend, you see every deck list that every player enters the tournament with, and you get to see every matchup that every player played in that tournament. So like if someone wins with kind of a brew, you can go, okay, do they just like get lucky matchups, or like did they actually beat the tiered decks that are good in the format? My first hand could have been an okay keep. It had an ice, so it was guaranteed a second resource, but like if I Fate Wove into a Ruby Shard, I wasn't going to be able to cast my Tilda Soil, so I think I like mulliganing that hand. Because this deck plays cards like Runic Avalanche, lets you draw a bunch of cards, and Exalted Pathfinder, I like mulliganing pretty aggressively with it, looking for a few resources and a ramp piece in your openers. It's kind of unfortunate that we Fate Wove a Wild there. When you Fate Weave, it picks the resource at random, so I can't choose to fix my thresholds with that. So my hand is going to be dependent on running off a couple of Ruby sources. I can activate the Sabretooth for just a single Ruby threshold, but to actually cast it, I'll need 2. Sorted the top 8. If you hit go to next round, Uber Mikey, it does. So there's the final standings from the actual tournament, and then the top 8 is considered a different tournament. So if you click on the bash, and then you click go to next round at the top, at the very top, right under number of rounds, you can see how the top 8 actually played out. What's going on, Hecky? What does all the data mean? All right, I'm just gonna play this Wildlife. So this Wildlife is a card that kind of scales as you get more resources. It costs XX, and it creates XX cost cards. So for 4 resources, it creates 2 2-drops. For 6 resources, it creates 3 3-drops. For 8 resources, it creates 4 4-drops, etc. So it kind of increases exponentially. The more mana you put in, it exponentially increases how much you get out. There's a message that Hex's Fight Night tournament is starting soon. So that's actually a good draw. That gives us our first Ruby threshold. So if we hit a second Ruby threshold here, we're actually going to be in a pretty good spot. I'm going to go ahead and Sabretooth this. My Acolyte of Shoku, in addition to ramping us, it also has an ability to let us spend resources on it. So for 3 resources, I can create a Dreadling, which is kind of like a token troop that is a 1/1 that has to attack, and it dies at end of turn. So I'm going to go ahead and activate that with my last 3 resources. I don't have anything else to do. I'm going to attack my opponent for 4. Fireball. Okay, so this is one of the things that's kind of interesting about Hex's resource system. So this card only costs 1 resource to play, but it requires that my opponent have 3 Ruby thresholds to play it. So basically, my opponent can't play this card before the 3rd turn unless they have some other card that like accelerates the Ruby thresholds. It's kind of like a balanced lightning bolt, right? My opponent dealt 1 damage to my 1/3. I wonder if they're going to have something else to kill it. Swamp Gas, okay. Kind of curious if they're killing this and not my Acolyte of Shoku. Oh geez, do they have more ways to kill this too? They're just killing both of them. If we draw a non-slow Ruby resource, so this card's really powerful. It's one of our payoffs in this deck. It says discard your hand, and then we draw 3 cards and summon a Rock Elemental. So a Rock Elemental is a base 0/0, but this Rock Elemental gets bigger, equal to the total casting cost of the cards that we've drawn. And we have a lot of big boys and girls in our deck. This card also has Runic. So after we play it for the first time, it goes into this stasis state off to the side. And then when we draw a resource, or have a resource enter our hand, it replays itself. So ultimately, it creates 2 Rock Elementals and draws 6 cards. So this is gonna, so we drew 6 total cost worth of cards. So we got a 6/6 Rock Elemental, and that's actually a pretty small elemental for this deck, right? Like we've got a bunch of 7s and 8s in our deck. These elementals can often be, you know, 10/10s or 14/14s or even 20/20s. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about Hex and how some of the things work, I have an article here called How to Hex, and it kind of establishes some of the key differences between Hex and Magic. Impulse lets my opponent draw 2 cards and they have to discard them if they don't play them this turn. So we're in a pretty good spot here. If we draw a resource next turn, I'm not too sad to discard any of these cards. And then this Palm of Granite grabs wild shards and plays one and puts one in my hand. So this will actually trigger this Runic Avalanche on demand, which is pretty good for us. Return to Cinder is a quick action here, so I'm going to go ahead and use it on my opponent's troop at end of turn. Just kind of clean it out of the way here. We drew a shard for the turn, so that re-triggers the Runic Avalanche, so I'll discard these 3 cards. And this time, we drew 12 total cost worth of cards. So we got a 12-12 out of the deal. This is just powerful card advantage and a threat to beat down with. This Wildlife. This deck costs about, I believe to buy outright, about 150 if you don't have any of the cards in it. So a little bit closer, it's a little bit higher on the more expensive end of the spectrum. Eternal Seeker is a legendary or a mythic rare equivalent, so I think these are like 10 bucks. Opponent's had enough. We've got plenty of power worth of dorks in play. My ramp deck paid for itself already, though. Top 4 of the bash last weekend was $125 in cash. My opponent doing? They're kind of playing like a Ruby, like aggressive-ish style deck. This extra return to Cinder that deals 2 damage is probably fine. Gargalith probably isn't very good. I'm not sure if Scars of War is good or not. I'm going to go ahead and leave it in for now, but I don't think I'm going to board in the 4th copy. I guess they're playing Arcanacrity, which is like a constant, so maybe Nature's Reigns is fine, but honestly, I'm just going to click submit. If we see other constants in their deck, I might bring in Constant Hate for game 3 if we have one, but in the dark, I kind of just want to like let my powerful game plan carry me, I think, if I don't really know what my opponent's doing. Which is one of the reasons why I like this deck. This deck plays a lot of spot removal and has like sweepers and stuff like that, but it has just a pretty powerful proactive game plan as well. So when we're not quite sure what our opponent's doing, we can just try and run them out. Or if our answers don't line up well. Like the fact that our draw spell creates a big dude is great. And this hand just has everything we're looking for in it. It's got both of our threshold types. It's got a piece of ramp. It's got a payoff. It's got a piece of spot removal in my Sabretooth. So just a lot going on here. We already have 4 resources guaranteed, so I'm probably going to Fate Weave a non-resource to the top of my deck here. Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and use this to Fate Weave a non-resource, especially since I drew a 5th. Just good control over flooding or not flooding. Stalagmage here for my opponent. It's a 1/1 for 1. That says Diligence, and Diligence says when it readies at the start of their turn, it deals 2 damage to me. So it'll attack for 1, but like it kind of attacks for 3, right? It's a good draw. So this card has a mechanic called Gladiator, which gives it plus attack on their turn and plus defense on my turn. So this card could actually grow out of control. So this thing's gonna hit me for a little bit of damage this turn, but I want to Sabretooth this guy, and then we'll return to Cinder this next turn since we drew it. Just getting to curve out really nicely here. So like kill your 2-drop play. Our turn 3 will be play this ramp card, Tilda Soil, return to Cinder this. Really just looking for like a Runic Avalanche or a Exalted Pathfinder, some way to kind of pull this together and generate some card advantage. Yeah, socketing is extremely strong. There's a lot of cards that are socketed that see a lot of play, and they see play in a lot of different shells and in a lot of different ways. In fact, this season, one of the decks on my budget decks and one of the best decks in the format, the Ruby Sapphire Sockets deck, is a deck based around synergy type cards. Yeah, the Ice Battle board's sweet. This must be my opponent's board. I play the Forest board with this deck. Pathfinder. Wildlife is okay. So I could Wildlife for X's 2 here. But if I wait a turn, I could Wildlife for X's 3. So I think I'd rather wait a turn. I'm going to put a non-resource on top of my deck for now. I need a 7th to get to this Eternal Seeker, but I wouldn't mind hitting some more action with the way this hand is right now. McBombus rotated. So McBombus was so the champions are tied to the sets they release with. So when set 4 rotated out, McBombus rotated with it. Drew another 7 drop that I can't cast. Maybe it's probably greedy to not get a resource there. So I get 3 random 3 drops. Ooh, this one's pretty good. Whenever this attacks or blocks, I get to Fate Weave, so this can find me a resource if I don't draw one next turn. This card's pretty powerful in my opponent's deck. It says whenever they gain a charge, this gets +2 attack and crush until end of turn. I'm just gonna dogpile this. I'm gonna leave this one back. I guess if they have something to give this Swift Strike as a combat trick, I'm gonna be really sad here. So this card says whenever they play an action, they gain a charge. So the Acridi and the Rock Slide are kind of synergy here. Any action my opponent plays is going to allow them to pump this up. So that made their thing an 8-5, so we're all going to trade here. Oh, geez, and Fireball, so it crushed over a little bit. Hex is never planning to come to cell phones. They do plan to release on tablets at some point, but they don't intend to release on cell phones ever. And part of the reason of that is Hex doesn't limit the amount of units you can have in play. Oh, you're right. I could have. This one, it attacks or blocks. I derfed. I had locked in my head that this was only going to do that when I even zoomed on it and showed it. I had in my head that it only did that when it attacked, and I was like, oh, I need this to survive to attack. So yeah, I should have blocked with this to Fate Weave a resource to draw a resource this turn. My favorite nickname for a Hex card. What does that do? When you play an action, this deals 2 damage each opposing champion. Well, that's really good. We're gonna Eternal Seeker the crap out of that. So get this Seeker down and pick 5. So it gets rid of all 5-cost things, which is just my opponent's. I'm gonna go ahead and stack another resource on top of my deck. Drawing Runic Avalanche here means that I'm pretty happy with drawing some resources since I already have plenty of payoffs. So I get to go ahead and return to Cinder this at end of turn, and then this Eternal Seeker is going to clean up their 1-cost things here, which is their Arcane and their Runic Missile. I think I've seen pictures with 200 or more things, but I might be imagining that. I've had some pretty massive board states. I don't think I've actually counted though. And like, Hex is an actual video game that uses your GPU, so it can handle pretty large board states. Technically, you can hack it. You can install the APK on phones, I agree. I don't think they will ever officially support cell phones, though, for just a parade of Eternal Seekers. Is my 5/5 flyer that kills your card good? GG's, mate. I feel like there's something to this Eternal Seeker card. It might be great. So the PlayStation 4 is the first system that they've ported to. And now I don't work for Hex. I don't have any insider information, so this is purely speculation. But I would put money on one of the holdups for their tablet port being resource efficiency. So Hex on my system because it's, you know, it's a video game, it uses my graphics card. It uses like 2 gigs of RAM. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some optimizations that need to be done in memory management to make it run on lower end tablet devices that tend to be, the PlayStation 4 is a little bit more power than like what mobile devices tend to have, right? Those flames will have to go, right? Yeah, Hex says they plan to come to Android and iOS and Xbox and other stuff too. Yeah, definitely. They're not going to look at this, even if there's system requirements, they're not going to look at them, right? There's like minimum tablet spec requirements. I'm at Plat 2, so there's a few more matches away from Cosmic. I wouldn't mind having my Cosmic plinth before the bash in the morning. All the people playing Hex on a Friday night. Drag Plinth Fear into the right. Let them know what's up. Let them know I've played a bunch since I rotated on the first. All right, I'd love to go first. So this hand's close. I feel like you just like should mulligan hands without ramp at 7. Like it has both of our thresholds, so it's close, but I would keep this at like 6 without a Sabretooth, but I think like this hand doesn't have thresholds, but it's got a Palm of Granite in it. Like Palm of Granite is definitely one of our better cards. Death Cry, it's when this dies, it gives one of their troops +1/+1 permanently. Sure. Ruby card. So, if this hand hits a Ruby Sorcerer too, it's going to be off to the races. It needs a resource in general so we can play this Palm of Granite to get rolling. If we just draw more wild shards, we'll be okay for a little bit, because Palm of Granite will let us play Wildlife and Eternal Seeker. So this card, when it comes into play, it makes a friend, makes another 1/1. It's pretty unfortunate for us. Oh geez, so they're playing Palm of their own. These cards get bigger until end of turn whenever they play an action. Beat down a little bit here. My opponent's champion is one we haven't seen yet tonight. For 7 charges, it gives all their troops +2/+2 permanently. So if we brick here, we're probably gonna be in a lot of trouble. Okay, that's not the Ruby Shard I really wanted, but it's better than missing again. That's for sure. If we can keep running off some resources here, this Eternal Seeker could do good work for us. This card says whenever they create a 1-cost thing, they get to create 1 extra 1-cost thing. That's cute with Warp Steel. It makes Warp Steel make 2 friends. They're 2 charges away from their champion power happening. All right, I mean, that's like kind of what we needed, right? It's another Palm of Granite here, so that means next turn I'm actually going to be able to play this Eternal Seeker and clean up all their 1-drops. People are such tilt monsters, Dwight. Oh, geez, are we dead? I think I'm dead. So that ramps them, and then they can play a resource, which lets them hit their champion power. Yeah, I'm dead. All right, so our stumble was a little bit too long there. So this seems like a matchup where I want my extra Scars of War as a sweeper. Probably want the spot removal as well. Gargalith's probably a little slow. Wildlife's probably a little slow. Let's try. Hopefully we don't stumble and bumble this time around. Thanks for everyone that's hanging out through the end of the stream tonight. Just closing out with a couple matches of Hex. I'm playing this deck in the Hex Bash tomorrow, so they have their standard 1K every Saturday. Top forward the one last weekend with this same deck, so hopefully I can run it back tomorrow. This hand's great. It's got both our thresholds. It's got an Acolyte of 2, spot removal, payoff. Yeah, the Furiko deck is neat. The champion power is very strong. That's why it costs 7 charges, obviously. But Palm of Granite allowing you to like get to that champion power sooner is a nice axis of attack, basically. I haven't played much of this limited format. Furiko is one of the best ones this season. I don't play much limited in general. Although I might try, depending on what's in the packs. They're bringing back Furiko champion power for 7 charges is all your troops get +2/+2 permanently. So Hex's cash tournaments are a little bit smaller than Magic's currently. So every other month, so 6 times a year, they have an invite-only $5,000 cash tournament as opposed to the open entry $1,000 cash tournaments that happen every single weekend. And you qualify for that invite tournament by playing on the Hex ladder. So, what's the word I'm searching for? The top 64 players on the ladder at the end of every 2-month ladder season get invited to that Cosmic Crown Showdown. Do you ever figure anything out about the cards in hand moving bug? Which one are you talking about? Oh, the one where I clicked it and it grabbed the thing behind it? I think that was technically a feature. I think I technically just like clicked at the same time as it was sliding it across. I actually didn't report it because I'm lazy, but I probably should because it's a poopy feature. Just lets them fate weave and then draw 2 cards. Yep, good attack. Get to chump block 1 and then take 2. I fate will have a non-resource to top my deck, so hopefully find some good action here. Well, I guess that kind of counts. Yeah, I agree. Hex is really good at creating kind of a lot of really, in addition to like, there's just, the gameplay is interactive because there's so many decisions, right? Like the Candle deck, this deck my opponent's playing is pretty interactive. It involves drawing cards. Like, my deck has some aggressive draws in it too, but like, the cards that I play are flexible, so they have the like modal cards are interesting in my opinion. The more decisions I get to make in every game, the more interested I am in the game I'm playing. They might attack here. That's interesting. I'm not gonna block because I want these troops to live, and I feel like I don't know exactly. They're playing kind of an off meta deck, and I feel like they might have like some kind of card to like pump their troop instead of combat and kill my blocker. And I mean, like, it depends on how competitive you are as a person, Ribson, right? Like the CCS tournament's a free roll. Like, it's not like it costs you anything to enter. You don't have to put up a bunch of money traveling. Squeaked in it exact. What's it? Mappa Monte. His motto every season was the 64th player is the smartest person on the ladder. They worked the least amount and got the same prize as the person who finished first. Yeah, there's definitely some cards that have, like, you know, variants in them by design. Like, this card's a great example of something that's variants by design. When it comes into play, each player discards their hand. That's weird. My opponent just conceded the match. We were going to a third game. Maybe they had somewhere to go. And again, the ladder matches don't cost you anything, so I'm gonna go ahead and queue up for one more match here before I call it a night. We've been streaming for almost 7 hours. God bless my wife, she's a saint. Putting up with the things that I do. Thank you everyone for hanging out through the end. Remember, if you enjoy the content, hit that follow button. Consider subscribing on Twitch, and if you're interested in jumping into Hex, you can support my content by buying your singles from Hex Primal. Using code Jeff5, you can save 5% on your orders there while also supporting my content. Just the main Hex website, hextcg.com. I can grab you the link even, D-Brain. It's got reserving suggestions on it and everything. This guy right there. It's one of the best decks in the current constructed format. Yeah, and as always, if you're not in the Discord, you should pop in there. There's always people willing to answer questions and stuff like that, make suggestions. Hello, Jacob Jeffrey. It's 8:15. Is Mom letting you stay up late? Maybe we'll do bedtime together after Dad finishes this match? Yeah? One small with feeling. Opponent. We've played against 4 different champions tonight, haven't we? Takahiro. 3 charges, sacrifice a troop, draw a card, and gain 3 health. When Jake's about ready for bed, he runs around the house and shuts off every light. This hand is very good. It has 2 ramp spells into an Exalted Pathfinder here. House X cost-wise is appeared as compared to Magic Online. It's similar in cost to playing Standard on Magic Online. The competitive Tier 1 decks cost somewhere between like $80 and $150 this season. It's not... I think calling it way cheaper is a little bit disingenuous. The prices are kind of comparable this season as far as Standard to Standard goes. I'm gonna put another... So they took my Palm of Granite with that Withering Gaze. Am I gonna put a resource or a non-resource on top of my deck? I'm kind of happy with all the cards in my hand. I'm gonna put a resource on top of my deck here, because Exalted Pathfinder draws cards with resources, so I want some extra once I put him out. So limited is cheaper. The pack prices are $2 a piece, so the limited is half the price of limited on Magic Online. I think my opponents actually looks like they're playing the Blood Ruby Takahiro deck. Yeah, that's true. When Magic has a good standard format, it's much more expensive. And Hex's standard format is excellent right now. I think Hex's current standard format is probably my favorite constructed format I've ever played in any TCG ever to date. There's just so much going on that you can be doing. What's my opinion on Thakra plus Emra? I don't know what that is, Rebson. Drop a Vicar, yep, so when this dies, they get an extra thing. Interesting that they played the Haunting Cry there. I think I'm gonna play this out, and we have a non-resource to the top of my deck. And then next turn, so I could play my Exalted Pathfinder. Oh, I should have. I could play an Exalted Pathfinder here. And then my Exalted Pathfinder could just die and not generate any value. So next turn, I'll be able to play this and immediately play a resource after it, which will guarantee that it draws a card. So they use their champion power to sacrifice their dork to draw a card, and this card just draws a card when it dies, so they drew a couple cards there. Hopefully, they spend their resources here. Sweet. Because now I'm going to get to draw 2 cards with my Exalted Pathfinder, because I'll get to use my champion power as well. Just let him stay up until I'm done with the stream. That's going to be my last match.
Honey?
Yeah.
I miss... Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Honey, I miss you. Can you ask the internet if I can have you back now?
So Return to Cinder is very good at this matchup. You're a very cute child. It voids the troop that it targets, so by killing my opponent's naive lackey, they're not going to get to draw a card from it. And then... You're funny. Funny looking, maybe.
Wash.
Wash what?
You wash it? Wash Daddy, because Daddy stinks?
I am a stinky magic player.
Wash you.
This not getting hero fallen is very good for us. No massacre, also good for us. Are they hero falling during my draw step? Strangle. Okay, that makes sense. Just get smaller during my turn.
Mommy, wash you. Mommy.
So you'll notice 2 turns ago, I activated this to put a troop in my bin, and the reason why I did that was because Till the Soil has Scrounge. So because there's 2 troops in my bin, I get to void these to draw a card with this. Yeah, I think the Tri-Shard Sockets deck is fine. That deck is more than reasonable. I'm gonna go ahead and Scars of War here, clear my opponent's board out, play this Acolyte of Shoku post-combat. I'm gonna go ahead and attack for 2 here. Thin and stinky, yep. What's that smell? Smells like teen spirit. Jotra, if you look at my YouTube, there's some videos with it. It won a 5 shards weekly a little while back. Non-slow shard. Well, that's pretty good. So we get to go ahead and do this to make 4 4-drops. And then next turn, we can Runic Avalanche. What if I put it as a Candlelight here? Candlelight's one of their payoff cards. Nope, just nothing. That's good for us. Runic Avalanche is gonna let us gas up next turn. It's a Blood, Sapphire... What are the shards? It's Blood, Sapphire, Diamond. It's base Blood... It's base Sapphire, Diamond, and then splashes Blood. That's pretty good. Troops get -3, -3. Well, I have 1 power worth of troop left. So one of the things... Do I want to get value out of this or not? Okay, so I'm going to Fate Weave a resource to the top of my deck. So that way I guaranteed draw a resource next turn. And I'm going to play the Sabretooth for now. So next turn, I'll draw a resource. And then... This is really bad if they draw Demented Whispers, though. Demented Whisper is a card that makes me discard. I guess it's bad if they draw Withering Gaze as well. If they draw Withering Gaze, I'm going to be really sad, or Demented Whispers. It's possible I should have just slammed this and drawn 3 cards. When it did not, and they packed it in. Okay, so this matchup, I definitely want the Brosi-Bucks. I want this Gargalith. I think they might have dark cards in their deck, so this is probably fine. Scars of War is pretty bad. Return to Cinder is okay. Not very good. Reginald's Riposte can take their draw cards and their discard. The Berry deck's kind of clunky. You're not bringing both the Chompknights. Let's try this. Reginald's Riposte takes an action off the chain and puts it into my hand, making it Ruby. And at the end of my turn, if I haven't played it, it goes back to my opponent's hand. So if you take like a discard spell or a draw spell, we can take that and then play it for ourselves, or we can just kind of time walk a sweeper with it. Yeah, Ali's been playing mill decks. I don't know that they're terribly competitive, but he's been playing them. Brosi-Buk's my favorite. He's just like super high all the time. Yeah, I believe so. This hand's okay. It's a little slow, but my opponent's deck's also a little slow. Having 2 Exalted Pathfinders in my hand is actually kind of a liability against a Hero Fall deck, but I'm not mulliganing all my Thresholds ramp spell, like, bombs. Especially against a deck full of discard. Color Palm is decent. If they play a Demented Whispers here, I'm actually going to bin the Exalted Pathfinder because of Hero Fall. Okay. I'm actually just going to go ahead and use the Sabretooth to kill their 2-1 here. I don't want to accidentally get run out of the early game by these cards. And also, like, my resources are just going to be tied up the next few turns, so spending my resources this turn is important. One of the things you want to do when you're playing this deck is just use your resources as much as possible, as often as possible. It's definitely a deck that rewards you for being more efficient rather than less efficient. Play this Palm of Granite. Want to play Void Star? Yeah, exactly, Ribson. And one of the things that I noticed my win rate with this deck went up a lot when I started doing it is don't be attached to the 7-drops in your hand when you have Runic Avalanche. It's very often just right to slam Runic Avalanche as soon as possible and just, like, get that going. Alright, well, I'm not going to get Hero Fall on this turn, so that's sweet. So hopefully I hit another resource with this Exalted Pathfinder. Ding, so I'll play this. I'll play a Shard. Oh, I should have done this first, right? Because I could have made him larger. Do this, play another Shard. It'll be really sad when they Hero Fall me next turn, especially since I just drew a bunch of Shards, but it is what it is. I'd have to wait a long time. If they don't Hero Fall me this turn, we are going to draw so many cards next turn, it's unreal. So Hero Fall is a really powerful piece of spot removal. In addition to killing the troop in play, it takes all copies of that troop out of its opponent's hand and deck. So if my opponent has Hero Fall for this, I'm going to lose the other Exalted Pathfinder that's in my hand right now, in addition to all the remaining copies of it in my deck. Sabretooth in their deck is interesting. Huh. Okay, well, unless they have a non-slow shard, this isn't getting Hero Fall, so that's nuts for me. Man, if they don't have a Strangle for this, I'm not blocking here because they showed me they have Sabretooth in their deck. Because if I block, they could use a second Sabretooth to kill this. They have a Strangle. Yep. So Exalted Pathfinder. Play this Wild Shard, draw a card. Play this Palm of Granite, get Wild Shard out of my deck into play in my hand. Trigger this, draw a card. Champ Power this, draw a third card. This Pathfinder just draws so many cards in this deck, it's unreal. Isn't even real life. I'm up to 9 resources here, so next turn I'm gonna get to just go ahead and like slam this Wildlife for X's 5 and get 5 5-drops. It's kinda nuts. ZX Judgment. So this Verdict's twice, so it gives me different choices. I'm going to give them a troop from their crypt rather than sacrifice my Pathfinder. I'm going to give them a troop from their crypt rather than sacrifice my Pathfinder. It just increments it by 1, D. Brian. Yeah, I feel like the fact that this card is just wild. Like, if it was wild, we'd still play it just fine in this deck. Like, this deck has a bunch of wild cards in it. But, like, I feel like he probably should have been less splashable, right? God, that's another Palm of Granite. Now stop it. Stop it, Hogland. Just get 5/5/5s. These are my 5/5s. My 5/5s are... Wait, wait, wait. Oh, no. Oh, I messed up. This could have... When this comes into play, I can use its action during my main phase to take one of their things. I should stop and read my free cards more often. I'm going to take in one of their blockers here. And they wouldn't have been able to kill my Dreamweaver Ancient. Trigger the death cries of a troop you control. Death cry. God, what a combo. Get a Palm of Granite back. I think this matchup's kind of hard for my opponent's deck. They have a hard time valuing out all these cards that I'm doing and generating. Like, when they didn't have the hero fall for the Pathfinders on the spot, the game just started snowballing out of control for them. Well, that cleans up a lot on my board. This Pathfinder is going to die on my turn. Because, have a Nightfall. Why is Pathfinder called Neo? So, every year, Hex honors, several members of their community with Exalted cards. They have Exalted in their name, and this likeness on this card is another streamer in that community named Infamous Neo. There's actually so they had 3 Exalteds this year, and I was actually one of them. So there's a card called Exalted Commander in the game that has an image of with my likeness on it. So I'm gonna play I'll play Palm of Granite here. I'm actually not sure if there's wild shards left in my deck. Are there? Oh, there's exactly 1 left. I'm gonna play a shard here. Then I'm gonna go ahead and champ power this guy. And then play another shard. And then I'm gonna Runic Avalanche. So this lets me get another shard out of my hand before I Runic Avalanche and pick up 3 new cards. And again, I could play this Eternal Seeker, but I kind of just want to like snowball through my stuff. No, I just missed the attack last turn, Uber Mikey. Just forgot to click on. Just like I missed the null activation. Attack last turn should have been a lot better than it was. My deck just like draws infinite cards, and we have this embarrassment of riches. So like, it's probably not going to matter that I ham sandwich that, but you know, is what it is. Actually, I think I might Fate Weave a. Oh, they've returned to Cinder. That's interesting. Wonder why that's in their deck. Against me, it doesn't kill anything. I think they probably should have killed this Putrid whatever, since it has a death cry to give me things back and I have Grounds Creeper with it. And see, look, this made an 11/11 and drew me 3 cards. I want to play Neo out of my hand here, even though he didn't generate value right away, because if I draw a resource next turn, Runic Avalanche is going to trigger again. When it said GG's, yeah, they're just not going to be able to come back from me drawing all these cards. They have 5 cards in their hand, but this deck just plows through them. End of turn, this returns a random card from my crypt to my hand. Honestly, this could get a resource back too, and then this will recast right away because there's a resources I discarded. All right, I got Neo back. Peace, Mikey. I appreciate that. Hopefully we'll run good. Get another top 8. I got the dead Pathfinder back to my hand. You conceding, or are you gonna keep playing here? No, I haven't been doing bash coverage. So I really don't want to draw a shard here because I want to be able to play this Pathfinder and the Seeker. But if we draw a shard, we'll probably have 3 new things to do. Alright, so let's play Pathfinder. I'm going to play this Eternal Seeker and void their 2 drops. And then I'm going to play this Shard here, which will draw a Shard from Neo, which will trigger this Runic Avalanche, which will draw 3 new cards. Which makes a 15/15. And now I have this Gargalith, which I can reveal from my hand to protect one of my cards from spot removal, get something Spell Shield. So. No, I've not. I think I had someone ask during the Magic stream, and I think I'm going to record them without commentary and upload them to YouTube after, because people said that that would be, they would watch that, so that doesn't cost me anything to do. But recasting, I feel like I might as well just like make more new content. It's like, why would I like spend time doing this when I can just make new content and play new games? Stop it. He's my secret, leave him alone. They're very dead regardless of how the cookie crumbles. It's my embarrassment of riches. Alright folks, peace. It's been a sweet stream. And remember, if you didn't catch it all, it's going up to YouTube now. Have a good evening, folks. Look at that. I got 3 booster packs for hitting Plat 1. If I win, I might win 1 or 2 more matches tonight before.